And a very happy Monday to you at 12:08 in the West. It's John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang's across the glass.
John, it sometimes feels like all of my weekends are dedicated to catching up on all the podcasts that feature all of our favorite people. Former LA City Councilman, former Senate President Pro Tem, former candidate for Senate, Kevin De Leon,
quite frankly,
went on a podcast with Mike Madrid. And Kevin De Leon is continuing the trend of current and former politicians deciding that now is the time to start cursing.
So what I like to do is my values and my principles, I like to manifest them in the outcomes that improve the human condition for all individuals. In short, what that means, get done. That's translation, just get done. Just don't talk about the issue.
You notice that he always sounds like he's in one of those kung fu movies. There's just something about his cadence.
It is hot as hell.
By the way, we're going to have a guest on at 1 o'clock to talk about a number of subjects, but one of which is a piece he wrote about swearing in politics, how it's the new rage.
Get done.
That's going to get him back.
Get done.
He was run out of town on a rail, but the cursing will get him back in everyone's good graces.
Now, we have a tradition here on the John Phillips Show, and maybe some of the new listeners up at KSFO aren't aware of this. If we ever play sound of Kevin De Leon,
Quite frankly,
we have to also play his greatest moment in his entire career. And that was during COVID when the LA City Council was working remote, and he was asked to recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
All rise.
Madam President, today is Tuesday and time for the flag salute.
Mr. De Leon, can you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this morning?
Thank you very much, Madam President. It'd be an honor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Indivisible, pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. For which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And he came close to defeating Dianne Feinstein before death did.
That clip is a clip that will never not be funny.
What kind of befuddled look do you think he has on his face every time they do the seventh inning stretch at a baseball game? 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Well, a subject that we spend a lot of time talking about on this program are these phony baloney homeless organizations that feed into the homeless industrial complex. And by that, I mean the more money we spend on the homeless, the more homeless we end up with, and the richer the people who work for these organizations become. If you fix homelessness, these organizations go away and the gravy train comes to an end. We certainly can't allow that to happen. So as long as they can keep it going, they can make it rain all they want, unless and until they get caught with their hand in the cookie jar and then the party's over. And Randy, we have an example of that.
The CEO of LAHSA, Valisha Adams-Kellum, Dr. Valisha Adams-Kellum, who Karen Bass appointed to head LAHSA 2 years ago after running one of these homeless nonprofits that doesn't have much accountability for what they've done over the years, the St. Joseph Center in Venice, she abruptly resigned on Friday at 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
When everyone breaks the bad news that they don't want you to hear about.
Now, of course, this happened the same week that the LA County Board of Supervisors decided to defund the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority so they can move all that fancy schmancy Measure A money into their own department, and the city of LA can't get their grubby hands on it.
Quite frankly.
And this woman was accused of kicking contracts and money to her husband.
Yes, an investigation a few months ago found out that Valisha Adams-Kellum, Valisha Adams-Kellum signed a $2 million check from LAHSA to a nonprofit that her husband runs.
And that's when you get in trouble. When the money that you're spending comes back to you or your household, you get in trouble.
Not only that, the city and the county of Los Angeles is still in the middle of this lawsuit from the Homeless Alliance. That's the one where the judge is doing all these audits and finding out that LAHSA hasn't been able to account for any of the money it spent in 18 years. The city of Los Angeles and Karen Bass's Inside Safe programs are even more of a mess. By the way, Karen Bass, her buddy Felicia Adams Kellum, doctor, funneled a bunch of LAHSA money to Karen Bass's Inside Safe program. That's why she wanted her there. That could be one of the reasons why the Board of Supervisors wants to uncouple from the crooked city of Los Angeles.
And this is why, despite how much money you tax yourself, despite how much money we spend on subjects like the homeless, the state still looks like a dump.
The judge who's in charge of that lawsuit, Judge Carter, had a hearing that Karen Bass was late for and that Felicia Adams Kellum didn't even show up for. He scheduled another hearing in the month of May where he might put all of the homeless money in the city and the county into a receivership because none of the people in charge can be trusted.
And this is why they don't want audits. This is why they don't want transparency. They don't want you knowing where that money is spent, because if you knew where that money was spent, you would never vote for another tax increase again to give them more.
For more on the head of LAHSA resigning abruptly on a Friday, here's KCAL in Los Angeles.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Pat Harvey. We begin tonight with the homeless crisis and the second major shakeup this week at the government agency that's supposed to solve it, but that critics say has failed, wasting billions of dollars in taxpayers' money as people die on the street every day.
And certain agencies get filthy, stinking rich. Not to mention Felicia Adams Kellum, who is getting paid $430,000 a year. This is a Karen Bass thing. She hires somebody for a job that's unqualified and doubles their salary. It's like what she did with the LADWP and Janice Quinones.
And this is how we get this great bang for our buck.
KCAL News political reporter Tom Wade is here now with more on this.
Yeah, these are big changes, Pat, and very political in the sense that you have a lot of support for the person who resigned. We'll get into that in just a second on the city side, but not on the county side.
Yeah, because they were funneling all the money to Karen Bass's crooked program.
And they wanted some of it.
And so these tensions are really increasing here. So
it was so pathetic. You had members of the LA City Council leave their city council meeting and go across the street to speak at public comment of the Board of Supervisors saying, please don't defund LAHSA. And of course, leading that charge was everyone's favorite, Nithya.
I'm sure.
And so these tensions are really increasing here. So we're talking about LAHSA, Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority. Now, earlier this week, LA County leaders, you might remember, they voted to strip the authority of its budget and its staff, saying it's time for a new agency and a new approach.
Well, yes, but all of those staffers at LAHSA are now just going to be transferred to the county. So it's the same crooked people in a different house. It doesn't really change anything.
No, they just want the money laundered someplace else.
To the crisis. Well, late today, LAHSA CEO Felicia Adams Kellum resigned.
Oh, he didn't call her doctor.
Oh, she's not going to be happy with that.
Doctor.
And by the way, that specifically is from the press conference when Karen Bass appointed Felicia Adams Kellum to it. She's the one that emphasized she's a doctor. A doctor of what, you might ask?
No, thank you.
Another vote for the mayor.
Felicia Adams Kellum, the CEO of LA County's Homeless Authority, or LAHSA, is resigning. The move comes just days after county supervisors voted to gut the agency of its funding.
This is time and time again showing that the Board of Supervisors is now totally fine with throwing Karen Bass and everything she stands for under the bus.
Well, it's not just the Board of Supervisors. So is Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom is blaming Karen Bass. I'm telling you, now that Karen Bass is toxic, she is going to take the L for everything in this state. They're going to hang it all on her because she attracts so much negative attention, everyone hates her.
Oh, you're so optimistic.
This resignation, I think, points to the larger problem that I think almost everybody agrees on, which is that the system is broken.
Matthew Umhoff.
LAHSA has had 4 leaders in 5 years.
And none of them did a good job.
Matthew Umhofer is an attorney with LA Alliance for Human Rights, a coalition that is suing LA City and County, claiming leadership has failed to adequately address the homeless crisis.
I think that it does start with accountability. If you're going to spend a taxpayer dollar, you need to know where it's going. You need to know that it's serving the purpose for which it's being spent. And these audits have shown that that's not happening.
No, everyone is asleep at the wheel on this. Gavin Newsom sends out $25 billion of homeless money to the counties, ask for a receipt. Oh, we don't know where it went. The county and the city of Los Angeles give all their money to LAHSA. They send it out to all these different nonprofits and agencies. You got any receipts? No, we don't know where it went.
No, because they can't show you. If they did show you, the jig would be up. We would know what they were doing. And what they're doing is they're taking the money. They're not solving the problem, but they're making their friends rich.
And every time you find out a specific of one of these programs, anything that you call services, maybe a service is handing someone a blanket, or maybe a service is giving money to Homeless Healthcare Los Angeles to pass out meth pipes, or as we found out in San Francisco, paying the Urban Alchemy ambassadors $8 every single time they walk the Tenderloin and ask if anyone wants a cigarette.
Sounds like honest work.
When county supervisors defunded LAHSA and took control of its budget, they cited multiple audits showing LAHSA lost track of billions of dollars over the years. Much of that was before Kellum took over, but supervisors said even under Kellum's leadership, there was a lack of transparency and accountability.
Including that check she wrote to her hubby.
Nothing to see there.
And her defense was, well, I write all my checks with a stamp. How does that make it any better?
And just last week, Kellum was a no-show for a court hearing in the case brought by the LA Alliance.
I can tell you certainly that if the county had confidence that LAHSA was being well run, it wouldn't be pulling its funding.
In a statement...
Yeah, but the county's not going to do any better of a job at this.
No, they'll be just as bad. The money, again, will just be laundered someplace else.
Lindsay Horvath appointed herself to the LAHSA Commission last year because that was going to bring accountability, and that didn't work. This is all nonsense.
You notice, by the way, that any area of government in the state that is in crisis, the people in charge of dealing with it never show up for any kind of oversight. Whether it is LAHSA and this judge where they just don't show up at all to the judicial hearing, or Ricardo Lara, the insurance commissioner, who doesn't show up to the state Senate oversight committee. They don't feel like they have to answer for themselves, and frequently they get away with it.
Well, Ricardo Lara has to check off all the boxes on his Kokomo bingo card.
I'm very kind of sketchy.
In a statement released Friday evening, Kellum said in part, "I'm incredibly proud of LAHSA's talented and dedicated staff."
Oh, good Lord.
And deeply grateful for their tireless work.
You know what she's grateful for? The 2 years of $430K and all the other money that she wired to all of her friends.
I'd love to know what the most ridiculous thing was that she bought.
I thank them and the commission for the opportunity to serve as CEO and for our partnership in reducing homelessness in our region.
Yeah, that was a rounding error, and the numbers are wildly inaccurate.
You know what? If you're going to resign in disgrace, just go away quietly. You don't have to pat yourself on the back and everyone around you who also profited.
Karen Bass and the people at LAHSA love to say over and over again, hey, our programs are working. LA had a 10% decrease in homelessness last year. And the numbers that they put out show that. In the city of LA, the number went from 48,000 to 44,000. However, in the surrounding county, the number went from 78,000 to 78,000. So did we really reduce homelessness by 10% in the city, or were they just in the county property at the time?
Kellum was chosen by LA Mayor Karen Bass. And
another L for Karen.
She can't get a W.
And Bass opposed the decision to defund LAHSA.
2 L's.
As did multiple members of the city council. Kellum also had support from LA City Councilwoman Nithya Raman.
Of course.
Where everything wrong is due north.
And let's not forget Nithya's history. Nithya had a homeless nonprofit, and she made so much money from it she could afford to run for office.
Who chairs the council's Committee on Homelessness. LA City leaders also point to data showing a slight decrease in LA City and county street homelessness last year.
Yeah, the decrease in the county was 200 people.
Well, and I wonder how many of them were killed by these programs. that are harm reduction oriented.
Well, when you have 7 people that OD and die in the county every single day, and that number is almost double what it was 5 years ago, you got to thank Dr. Barbara Ferrer for really doing a great job.
No, thank you.
She's the one that's reducing the homeless population.
And this year's count, done just a couple of months ago, shows a 5 to 10% decline countywide.
That's a preliminary number that they haven't even released. They tried to do that so Karen Bass could save face.
According to the preliminary numbers.
Everybody who's involved and really looks closely at these kinds of things knows that these counts are very, very subjective, and they're very hard to rely upon in a meaningful way.
Kellen will remain in the role for the next 4 months until a replacement.
What is that?
When you quit a job, they want you gone within 2 weeks. In some cases, they have security walk you out with a cardboard box immediately.
Well, if she's making $430,000 and she wants to make sure she collects that $35,000 a month for another 4 months.
Oh, I'm sure. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, if you missed an episode from last week and you want to find out what you missed out on, that's easy to do.
All you got to do is search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Spotify. Search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe, and you too can figure out the hottest new catchphrase in California politics.
Scrub it.
And we'll have more on that later today. And Randy, on Friday of this week, we're going on the road.
Yes, we are. We're going back to Long Beach, everybody. We're going to be celebrating the 20th anniversary of Gladstone's Long Beach and the 50th anniversary of the Long Beach Grand Prix this Friday. Join us Friday from noon to 3 for Fan Free Friday, where we'll be broadcasting live from the beautiful patio right on the Rainbow Harbor in Long Beach. It's gorgeous. The view is amazing, and the food at Gladstone's is incredible. Gladstone's Long Beach, a great location for a date night, delicious get-together with friends, a sunset cocktail, family meals, and celebrations located directly across from the Pike Shopping Center. There's going to be a lot of road closures, and I believe parking's going to be at the Pike. Make sure you get there early, make a reservation, and join us.
We have an update for you on a story we did last week about a homeless encampment that involved RVs.
This was, of course, in the City of Industry in Los Angeles County, where NBC4 originally broke the story, where a bunch of homeless people had taken over the RVs that were sitting on this lot, luxury RVs worth $40,000 to $80,000 a year. And apparently some of the people have been living on this land and living in those RVs for a year, possibly 2 years. It was very confusing as to why nothing was done. There was a woman named Lucifer starting fires in this encampment, and only recently has the owner of the RV company come out and started to speak to the press. And he originally came out and said, I'm the victim in all this, and I've been trying to figure out what's going on. He made a claim that the landlord of the land where he's letting the RV stay, he was paying money to the wrong landlord. So there was some confusion there as to why this was such a private dispute. Anyway, NBC4 came out on Friday with quite the interesting update. The homeless people who were living there in those RVs claim that the owner of the RV company was letting them stay there and he was charging them rent.
Imagine being a neighbor and hearing that. Because if you think Cousin Eddie is uncouth, you should see Lucifer.
For more on this story, here is NBC4.
Tonight, an NBC4 investigates exclusive, raising new questions about the large group of homeless people that was accused of taking over dozens of RVs in the City of Industry. NBC4 was the first to report this story last week.
You see, the owner of those RVs repeatedly told us the homeless broke into dozens of his trailers, but new audio obtained by NBC4 suggests he was making agreements with some of those people to pay him to stay there.
What the hell is going on here?
It gets stranger and stranger.
And how exactly are you making your money's worth when you're renting out a $40,000 RV for $300 a month?
Of all the ways to make a buck.
NBC4's Alex Rozier in studio tonight with an investigation you will see for the first time only on NBC4.
All the homeless have now been removed from this lot in City of Industry. The Sheriff's Department provided them temporary housing or treatment.
And also, what's so great about this story is nothing was done about this for the longest time. City of Industry threw their hands up in the air. The LA County Board of Supervisors, Hilda Solis, threw her hands up in the air, said, this isn't our problem. But as soon as the news cameras got there and saw Lucifer starting the fires, within a week, the sheriffs all of a sudden got permission to clear it out.
That's the way it always is. These problems are unsolvable until people get publicly embarrassed.
Depending on the person's needs. But this is what that lot looked like last week. The owner of Black Series RVs said he was the victim when a large number of homeless people broke into dozens of his RVs and started living in them last year. But tonight, several people we spoke to now say they were paying to live there and that they have the paperwork to show for it.
The homeless have the receipts?
If you're going to do an illegal operation like this, why in the hell would you put a lease on paper?
The LA County Sheriff's Department has now removed all the homeless from this lot in City of Industry. And Black Series RV owner Jack Hongwei Chu said all his trailers are being removed too.
I would say.
And didn't he say that he wants to sell them back to the county now? Because they're unusable, but maybe they could be used as homeless shelters.
That's right. He was going to try to file an insurance claim, but the insurance company won't pay out on it. So now he's trying to sell them to the county.
And at one point, he had said that all of these RVs were already sold, just waiting for the owners to pick them up. Everything about this story is super suspect.
No, not a lot makes sense.
I would say in about 2 weeks, we'll get all the trailers out.
Jack told us Black Series moved its trailers to this lot in 2021. But he said early last year they started dealing with trespassers who stole parts. And eventually, he said, dozens of homeless people broke into his trailers.
It started with one, and then I would say up to about 60 to 80 people. It's out of control.
80 people were living in this lot.
And again, people live in that neighborhood, they work in that neighborhood, and then you have this little island of chaos right in the center of it.
It's out of control since for the last 1 month to 2 months.
Jack told us one reason why he thinks this problem grew so out of control is because he heard some people made agreements to pay to live here.
I told them don't pay rent to anyone because I own the trailers.
And you remember we played one of these segments the other day where one of the people living there is, I just paid some Asian guy $300.
And I never charged rent.
But several people who lived here say not only did they pay rent, they paid Jack, Black Series owner.
What?
How do you even come up with a number? Let's see. We have these RVs that are here. The homeless want to live in them. They broke into them without being allowed there. I'm just going to tell them that they need to start paying me rent. What number can I come up with?
Well, and as soon as you charge them a dime, this no longer is trespassing. Now they have tenants' rights.
Oh, sure.
What is going on?
My husband did pay rent, and he paid it to Jack.
How much money did he charge you?
$300 a month.
Sounds like a fine, upstanding couple.
Well, and if they all give you the same number, then it's probably true.
IK, who didn't want to share his last name with us, says he's been living in one of the RVs for nearly a year and has been paying Jack $300 per month since November in what he described as a rent-to-own agreement.
Okay, how long is that going to take?
It's going to take a good long while.
Let's say it's the base model RV, right? Which is $40,000, not the $90,000 ones. At $300 a month, he will have that paid off in 133 months.
Well, I hope he takes good care of his health.
Now, if you burn down the RV, do you still have to pay the $300 a month if it's a rent-to-own agreement?
I think they just move you into another one.
And so he came all the way down to $1,300. And I'm like, okay, cool. I can do that.
IK showed me what he says is his bill of sale, and he says it's signed by Jack.
What is happening now?
Then he shared audio with NBC4 of a conversation that he says he and his girlfriend had with Jack, where they appear to discuss a $300 per month asking price.
How much money do you have? In my pocket right now? I don't know, maybe
Right now we're really low.
But we spend everything on the trip here for a month.
I can rent the trailer for you for $300 a month.
That's actually not bad at all.
That's not bad at all.
Pull that off.
What is happening? I'm so confused about every aspect of this story.
None of it makes any sense.
That's actually not bad at all.
That's not bad at all.
Pull that off.
Okay. So
the only problem with that is while we're paying for that, we're at the same time trying to get a car to drive home.
Yes, because
I can only do something.
Wait, you got him down to $300 and you're still negotiating?
Why not?
I can only do something. I'm a roofer.
Okay.
That's the business I started in North.
Yeah, okay. So
Wait, you are a roofer or you're going to start a roofing business from the RV?
Okay. You think the honesty is going to start now?
No, that's the business I started in North.
Yeah, okay. So, but if you stay here, you need to pay that $300 a month. Okay. I can rent the trailer for you for $300 a month.
That was you on that recording asking for $300 a month. Yes or no?
On the recording, yes.
Okay, so it's him.
He's not even denying it.
He thought about it.
What is this story?
All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll have more from this. Just more complete insanity here in the insane asylum. So as I sit here thinking about this story, here's what I think happened, Randy. This is just a theory. It's just my opinion. I'm not claiming this is factually true.
Lay it on me.
Okay. This guy has an area that has RVs on it that he owns.
Well, he doesn't own that land. He's renting the land where the RVs are on it.
Okay. He has legal access to the land, and the RVs are his, correct?
Yes.
Okay. The homeless break in, and they start living in the RVs. He tries to get them out. Can't make it work, doesn't know what to do about it, figures he'll start charging them rent. Try to make lemonade out of lemons. At a certain point, he realizes that doing business with people named Lucifer is a losing battle. And all of the RVs are damaged at this point, and he can't do anything with them. And he figures, all right, I'll make an insurance claim. He hits a roadblock there.
The insurance company said, you didn't do enough to protect these things.
Yes, and maybe they sent out an investigator and they figured out that he was charging them rent, in which case he can't cash in on the policy. So the next step is to try to stick the county with the bill by having them buy the RVs. And the county was embarrassed in the news when this was reported on. And so the county has a mess to clean up. And if they pay him off by buying the RVs, then he'll shut up.
Are they going to buy all the RVs or just the ones that got burned?
At this point, I'm sure he doesn't care. He just wants to cut his losses.
Let's continue with this mind-boggling report from NBC4 in Los Angeles.
Jack says he is the voice on the recording, but he denies that he signed this purchase agreement or even knew about it. And he says he ultimately never took their money.
So he asked them for $300 and then didn't take the $300?
Wait, we have tape of the negotiation. Why would you negotiate a price and then when it comes time for them to start giving you cash, you say no?
I never collected money from any one of them.
He said after a trailer caught fire last year, he kicked IK and his girlfriend off the property, but they refused to leave.
A year? So a year went by with this.
Well, I'm sure they're all deadbeats. That much I'm sure is true.
They couldn't even come up with the $300.
So he said he tried charging them rent in an attempt to keep the peace.
What would you do? Would you allow these people to be here?
So I can't get the sheriff to remove them because the county has no reason to yet. They won't leave. So what if I try to make $300 on this? Except then he didn't get the $300?
Well, I'm sure he did for a period of time, and then they probably tried to stiff him.
What would you do? Would you allow these people to be here or no? Kick them out, and they will set fire to the trailer. I thought I could come up with a plan, but I never collected money.
Wow, that's so crazy. he was collecting money with his own two hands. There was a nice couple here, Rob and Linda. They stood on that freeway over there for 3 days and panhandled $300 to give to him. None of us have jobs like that.
Didn't he say in the last report that we went over that he found out that someone was collecting rent?
Yes, he claims that someone else was collecting rent. He also claims that he was somehow paying money to rent the lot to the wrong landlord. Every aspect of the story makes no sense.
Everyone involved in this story is a criminal dirtbag.
I don't know who to believe for any of it.
So if we have $300 to hand to you, you know we went through a lot of hell to get that.
I never collected rent from anyone.
Well, you can go on Figaro and make $300 real fast.
And by the way, this guy 5 minutes ago was claiming to be a roofer.
I never collected rent from anyone.
You didn't collect $1?
No, not even $1, no. People may not trust me, but that's what the truth is. Yeah.
Gee, why would we not trust you?
People may not trust me, but that's what the truth is. Yeah.
I have no idea what the truth is anymore.
Something else to point out there, Black Series doesn't own that land. In fact, an attorney for the landowner said Black Series hasn't paid rent on the lot since September 2023.
So the owner of the RV company is also a deadbeat.
Everyone involved in this story is a deadbeat.
So they went to court last fall, and in January, the judge sided with the landowner, which cleared the way for the removal of the trailers and the people living there. A couple of final notes tonight.
So the homeless couldn't get evicted from this land, but because of the private land dispute, the landlord could evict the RVs because they're not supposed to be there. What is happening?
Unreal.
And the people living there. A couple of final notes tonight. Colleen and Michael Ike, who you heard from in that story, talked to him today. He said he didn't get to keep his trailer. He said he has a hotel.
Did he think he was going to get to keep it?
Crazy people think crazy things. Who knows?
He said he has a hotel voucher for a couple of days, and then he's going to figure out the next step. And I talked to the sheriff's department today, too. I asked them about their involvement here. They said that they just handled this as a private trespassing dispute. They helped with the removal, but no other investigation is underway.
Alex, any idea if Black Series has claimed the losses with insurance?
Jack says he has about $5 to $6 million in loss, and that he has answered that question several different ways for me.
None of them keep their story straight.
Even with the same interviewer, because it's been Alex Rozier who's been out there every single day for a week.
He has answered that question several different ways for me.
That is a fascinating thing to hear.
He said first that he didn't want to answer the question. Then he said he thinks he should get some money. And then ultimately he said he's not going to file a claim and not expecting any money at all. Simply take.
Are we sure this guy didn't have like some massive mental breakdown?
No, I think he's a criminal. I think he's a dumb criminal, but I think he's a criminal. How is it that not everyone involved in the story is not in jail right now?
Well, it's California.
Simply taking at it as a total loss. I did reach out to the Department of Insurance to see if they had anything on their end, but at this point, we haven't heard back.
Great reporting, Alex.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And right now on NBCLA.com and on our NBCLA app.
So it's the Department of Insurance that they're now relying on to figure this out?
Ricardo Lara, get out of the Bahamas and get to the city of industry.
I'm very kind of scared.
You know, I don't think they live this way in Utah.
I can't find one aspect of this story that makes any sense.
No, and this is one of the reasons why you would never be able to turn this into a movie is there's no redeeming character. You have to have someone who's sympathetic. You have to have a redeeming character, and none of them are. It's just a den of thieves.